promised you in the beginning of the show and throughout the first hour that we're going to be in conversation with an occupational therapist. Her name is Angela Dlepu. I'm quite excited for this conversation. Angela, good afternoon.
Hi Zain.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very much excited for this conversation, primarily because I've come to realize there are many different therapists out there.
Yes, yeah.
When I heard occupational therapist, I'm like, job therapist? Like, is that
Yeah.
what it means?
Yeah, what is this thing?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So first and foremost, I have to ask that question. If somebody out there like me has never really understood what an occupational therapist is, how would you define that?
Yeah, I get this question quite a lot. So basically, in our world, an occupation is the ordinary and familiar things that you do every day. When your occupation, you are a radio host, you are, I assume, a brother or a son, you have many different roles that you play. So whatever it is that you do, that is your occupation. For children, their occupation is play. So that's how we define the occupation, and that's how we got to occupational therapy. It does sometimes involve work, but not in the sense that you would think. It's more about function and getting someone to be able to do their roles or their occupations that they were doing before they got perhaps injured, or you're in an accident, or any kind of disruption, I would say, in your health or in your life. So we get you back to doing your occupations.
So let's just say I had maybe a certain accident that I'd been in, and as a result, maybe my speech pattern changed, things like that.
Yeah.
So your job would be to get me to be able to speak properly again.
So
If I'm correct.
no, so our function is more physically.
Oh.
So there's many spheres in the occupational therapy world. Perhaps if I explain it like that. So there are clinical therapists. We work in the hospitals. We work with strokes, brain injuries, all sorts of things. And the function that we work on is physical as well as cognitive. Yeah. Yes, we are in the mental health space. You will find us Goma, St. Mark's. We are running groups, doing e-orientation. If someone's Klambi schizophrenia, and we have to, keep reminding them. So today is this and this day, whatever kind of mental health disruption. So there are OTs in the mental health sphere. There are OTs in the children's sphere. So it comes with development, school, everything like that. So
I wanted to particularly ask to that now.
Yeah.
My partner is actually a neurodevelopment expert, specializing in treating children with autism.
Nice.
So she's in the early prevention
Yes.
sphere of it all.
Yeah.
How do those particular, I don't want to say patients or those particular clients differ? Somebody who is young and somebody who's older, do you find the clients to be more of the older or more of the younger generation?
When it comes to what, like the autism kind of
when it comes to people that you encounter every single day as an occupational therapist?
I'm a hand therapist. I work in medical legal. I do see children developmentally, autism, cerebral palsy. Those are the things that I work in. So like I said, the OT is very broad, but that's just what I do. So I encounter a whole bunch of different people. I encounter adults who have injured themselves at work. I encounter adults who've had strokes. I encounter children who are struggling with meeting their milestones. I encounter children with disabilities, looking at devices that would assist them. So it would be like your wheelchairs, things that make life easier for them. Yeah.
I can just imagine that must be quite heavy sometimes. Seeing somebody, another human being struggling with something that maybe us average people take for granted sometimes. How do you deal with those moments? Is there maybe a certain story of, a day where something just moved you so much that it made you almost, kind of see life differently thereafter?
I think I have so many of those moments. I would say, as an OT, every day I have a moment where I'm like, wow, you've made a difference in someone's life. It may be the smallest of things. It may be someone that you've been seeing for a whole year, and they progress, or they do, one little thing, and you're like, yes, good for you. I'm so proud of you. I think for me, whenever I start with my patients and the day that I discharge them, I always remind them, when you started, do you remember why you couldn't do A, B, C, D, EFG? Look at where you are right now. And I'm so proud of you. And that's all you. Now I'm just here to help you along. Yeah. So those moments are, yeah,
I want you.
quite frequent, I would say.
I want you to rewind, Angela. Hopefully, not too far back, but when this whole thing started for you,
Yeah.
what was maybe that moment that you were like, you know what, this is what I want to do for a living?
Yeah.
Because I often find that our careers are not just ways for us to make money; it's also ways for us to fulfill our purpose in this world. So, when was that point you realized that this is your purpose?
Yeah. So, how I got into occupational therapy is that I did a career assessment because I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. So I did a career assessment. Basically, they looked at my personality, they looked at my interests, and what came up, the common theme was that I like working with people. I'm very empathic towards people, and I like to help people. So that's how occupational therapy came up. It was something that was suited to my personality. It was in the medical field, which is something that I was interested in. So, yeah, that's how it happened. Otherwise, I also didn't know anything about the occupational therapy. And when we talk about purpose, I think while you're studying, sometimes first and second year is a little bit overwhelming because there's so many subjects. You are doing anatomy and physiology and occupation and psychology, and so many other things, which when you come into practice, you actually realize why you have to do 2 years of psychology, because you need to understand a person, even though they are maybe injured physically, there's a lot of other elements that are going on in there psychologically. You know what I mean? So when you're studying, you do think, "But hey, this is like a whole mix of everything. Now I need to know the anatomy of the brain. I'm not a brain surgeon. Why do I need to know? Yabo ezondo zinjalo. So why do I need to know about the whole body?" And it comes into play when you, for example, come across a stroke patient and they tell you, "Bana, no, the infarct is on this side of the brain, or in this area of the brain." Then you need, okay, this is how it's going to present. If this is where the problem is, it's going to present itself like this. So, yeah.
Well, what would you say to a young Angela out there? Because I was somebody who once attempted to pursue a qualification in journalism and media studies,
Okay.
but I found myself thinking to myself, in this degree, there are certain courses we have to do that I don't think I'm going to need in my field one day.
Yeah.
And I wish I had somebody at the time who was older and more experienced to let me know that though you might take a semester studying something that you don't get now, but maybe in 10 years' time it's going to be valuable. So what would you say to a young Angela, and to maybe young people out there that are, considering occupational therapy? What would you say to them?
I think I would say keep pushing. It will all be worth it at the end. It is overwhelming. You might want to give up, but keep at it. When you are practicing, I'm telling you, all of those things, bukonba, oh, I don't know if I'm going to ever need this. You actually need it quite frequently. So, and the nice thing about occupational therapy is that it's so broad. So you can find whatever speaks to you. If you want to be in the mental health space, you can go into that. If you want to be physical in the hospitals, you can go into that. If you want to be a hand therapist, like me, you can go into that. If you want to do medical legal, there's so many things, that OTs can do. And that's the nice thing, is that it's very broad. You won't get bored. If you get bored of this part of occupational therapy, you just look for another part, Yeah.
Now, I have to ask a question. Seeing that you specialize in hands, I believe you said it was. My partner often says to me, I shouldn't do this with my hands.
Yeah.
I do this all the time. When I'm just
Yes.
feeling nervous, when I'm bored, whatever it is, I'm just always doing it. And the question that I'm getting to, they often say in medicine, prevention is better than cure. So, has there been things you picked up in your line of work that the average person maybe doesn't know, that don't spend your life doing this because one day when you get older, you might
Yeah.
encounter this issue because of this particular thing you kept on doing?
I think for me, it's mostly that I deal with very acute injuries. So not izinto that perhaps you've developed over time. It's an injury that's happened now that we need to work on now. Yeah. So basically, yeah, I don't really deal with kind of chronic things as such. I deal with you get injured now,
Somebody hurt
you
themselves.
break your arm, you snap a tendon, all of those things. So yeah.
Now, I want to ask something for all of the tough guys out there, myself included. Uh, sometimes you can maybe injure yourself, maybe you're in the gym or you're doing something. And you tell yourself, you know what, I can just push through it.
Yeah.
All I have to do is just, dinyamazela a little bit and I'll be fine. At what point do you maybe know that you maybe are making things worse by pushing through it? When do we know that it's something that can subside or
Yeah.
it's something that needs professional help?
If I can tell you the amount of times I've had grown men cry,
Grown men.
grown ass men cry in my office, happens all the time. The toughest of tough, machine operators. Don't. I carry 25 kgs of this and that at work, and they cry. So I think sometimes it depends. Sometimes it's necessary to push yourself, but that comes with experience. The more injuries you see, the more you learn about different presentations. You know when to push, and you know when to be like, okay, let's not push. But I would definitely say for the average person, if you cannot handle the pain, it's likely that you need to slow down or like give yourself some time to rest. Yeah. Listen to your body. That's what I'll say.
And
Listen to your body.
how important is it to act early?
Yeah.
Because I often find that sometimes people can do that. They can withhold getting help because they think that they're strong. So could you just speak to the importance of that? And also maybe, give an example of a situation in which somebody took a long time
Yeah.
to come in, for your help with, and, somebody that came in a bit earlier.
Yeah. The earlier the better, I can say, especially when it comes to hand injuries. I've had so many people who have injured themselves and didn't come to therapy, even though they were told to. And then you get there and your hand is like a claw, basically. And it is such a nightmare, for me to try and get you from a stiff hand that is in a claw that does not move to being functional again. It's possible, but it honestly it takes so much. There's a lot of things that we have to do. We have to do splinting. It's a nightmare basically. Sometimes it can be done, but sometimes if you had acted earlier, the functional outcome would have been so much better. Yeah.
Are there ways that you think that somebody as normal as myself maybe can take my hand for granted sometimes?
Yeah.
Because maybe I don't often experience injuries there. Do you find that maybe some of your clients maybe do say that, you know what, actually I didn't realize how important my left hand was because I'm right-handed?
Yeah. So not only with hand injuries, but also things like strokes, where now your whole side of your body doesn't work, or traumatic brain injury. You take so many things for granted when you can't make yourself a cup of tea anymore. That's something that's so easy. You would think, and now you're not able to do it anymore. You cannot grab a glass on the table and have a sip because function
I
is
imagine
gone.
I imagine that a lot of maybe your role as an OT, an occupational therapist, also probably includes people being able to be to feel, confident in their independence or their lack of independence. Because I can imagine when you go from being able to make yourself tea and coffee and now you can't anymore, that can be a bit, a bit scarring to one's, everyday, routine. So,
it's difficult for the person, it's difficult for the family. There's so many dynamics involved in it, and that's why I say ezinye izinto that we took for granted in university, like studying psychology, that's when they come into play. Recovery is all about the person. If you have given up, I cannot, do it for you. So
but that must be kind of difficult for you though. When you see somebody who maybe just they don't have it in them to maybe put up with the pain that's needed, or maybe the commitment that's needed, the discipline. Do you find such cases where maybe somebody just couldn't commit to your expertise and your suggestions?
Generally, a lot of people want to get better. Generally, they are motivated. There are periods of being demotivated when progress is slow and, things like that. But generally, people want to be well, There are cases where people will come in and I'll say, okay, this is what you need to do at home, because your body part is with you. Your arm is with you. Your hand is with you. Your brain is with you all the time, 24/7. And you see me, like twice a month or whatever. So you need to put in the work at home, and then they come back and we are exactly where we left off again. Those cases are so difficult, but you know what? There comes a point where to realizes, this is real. I need to take this seriously. But unfortunately, there are cases of people who just disappear and they come back like 6 months later and you're like, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
We are a little bit pressed for time, Angela. I'm quite interested in this, very much so. I didn't realize there was occupational therapy, and it was something of this nature in particular. But before we do let you go, anybody out there who's listening right now who is impressed, as I assume they all are, by your expertise, by the information that you know, and would maybe like to render your services, how do they do this?
So my practice is at 101 Western Avenue, Upper Vincent. You can also reach me if you Google me, Dlepu Occupational Therapy. My contact details will be there. Or you can contact my office. Should I share the line?
Absolutely.
So that would be 079 036 3757 for anyone who thinks they might need occupational therapy.
So you know what to do, you know where to call, you know where to go when you do need that help. That was Angela Dlepu. Thank you so much for this conversation. And again, I'm quite excited, and I think I need to start doing this with my hands.
Yes, please.
It feels so good.
Please stop. Arthritis.
Arthritis on the way. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
That was an occupational therapist that we were in conversation with, of course, in the spirit of Women's Month, of Women's Day. That was just the other day. In the meantime, in the background is going to be a little song by Daniel Caesar featuring Kali Uchis. And the name of the song is Get You. And who would have thought that we would get you as a listener? Good afternoon.
The Voice Lounge, where voices come to life.